Shivaya. Om Namah 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 Shivaya.
Namaste and a very good morning or good afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen. Can we ask you to please remain standing as our priest will conduct the opening prayer? Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may be seated. patience. We have now allowed people to come and pay respects. If you can come to your right and go around and pay respects. Thank you. We have with us the Tongat Musical Academy, who will be rendering bhajans from now until about 1:30. Thank you.
And I'm not feeling cold anymore is what is ice cold. My brother loved us so much. He did give us a big shave.
Welcome again, ladies and gentlemen. We are on short of time, so we're going to start with formalities while you are viewing and paying your respects. My name is Pillay. I'm the younger brother of Rayven Pillay. This for me is one of the most difficult tasks that I have to undertake. It is a day that we've all been dreading. We never wanted this day. But God has other ideas, and we cannot question that. So we are today here to pay respects to Rayven Pillay. And as much as we are mourning the loss, we need to celebrate this man's life. I think a lot of you know about Rayven, but there's a lot of you who don't know the other side of Rayven Pillay. I'm going to delve on behalf of the family about some of the things that a lot of people didn't know about Rayven Pillay. So if I may take a few minutes of your time to talk about him. We have lots of messages from organizations and people who have been close to him, and we have other speakers as well. So that will follow a little later. I just want to ask our late parents, my mother and father, to guide us through today's proceedings. They are there sitting and watching this whole thing unfolding today. A little bit of our background. We were 5 children to the late Mr. Aru and Mrs. Lakshmi Pillay. We were born in the Gandhisville barracks, and we were raised in the barracks. Anna was Amma's number 1. There's nothing that he could have done that was wrong. He was the model child, and everything was measured around him. Norman and I, my younger brother, were always disadvantaged because we were measured at his standards. And he set very high standards for us to follow. But we tried. Following his standards has helped us to become who we are today. And now for that, we thank you. They say a mother's love can never be tested. I want to repeat that. They say a mother's love can never be tested. That relationship between Anna and my mother was proof of it until the demise of our mother. You know, even when Anna was at fault, but he was never at fault for Anna. Even when we saw it as a fault, it was never a fault. A simple example, when we were growing up in the barracks, because we were the 2 older boys, we had to have turns to go to the shop to buy the bread and milk every morning. And the rule was, whoever went to the shop in the morning got to eat the crust. And the crust those days was extremely tasty. So when Anna went to the shop and he came in and he cut the bread and he ate the crust, so I had no problem with that. When I went to the shop and got the bread and came, by the time I could change and come back, the crust was gone. And there was nothing I could do about it. Because someone said, he's your big brother, you know. So if your big brother wants to do anything, let him do it. You just have to follow. Growing up in Gandhisville was tough. Because my father was the only breadwinner, and we had 5 children. But we grew up never going to get hungry. We grew up with such high morals, such high values, and our entire life was centered around our religious beliefs. And up until recently, Anna was so involved in religion. And he only stopped practicing his religious beliefs and going to the temple because he was not able to do so. And that is passed on to his children. So we were humble in Ganesal, but the simplicity that we were brought up with still remained in him. Anna was as strict as my mother. You know, most of the time, Norman and I got into trouble because of Norman. He was the youngest, and even me got away with murder. I was the one that only got into trouble. You know, in Ganesal Barracks there was a little ground. It wasn't a ground, it was an open space, no grass but just gravel. And we used to play soccer there. And we knew what time he comes home from work. We used to work at the Tomatongo, and at 4:30 we used to watch at the entrance. And the moment we saw him, we just dropped everything and we ran. I used to play goalkeeper, and I used to leave the goals open, and people used to score goals. The next time I came to the ground, and I got a DC from those guys too. I shared a lot of what I'm saying to you today at Anna's 70th birthday because I wanted him to hear the kind of impact he had on our lives. You will hear, ladies and gentlemen, later on Anna's involvement in religion, in sport, and in culture. I don't want to tell too much about that. But what I want to tell you that he was not only an accomplished soccer player, he was an accomplished soccer referee. He used to handle games in the local football association. He used to handle games at the San Natal level. He used to handle games at the professional level as well. His involvement in religious activities as a priest was commitment to none at the Great Village Alia. His activities with Escort, the senior citizens group, had taken the organization to different levels. That is basically a quick synopsis of Rayven from a family perspective, and like I said, you will hear speakers about his involvement in other activities. I'm going to quickly go through some of the messages that we have. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to read all of them, but I'm going to acknowledge them. The first one comes from the Tamil Academy, and it reads like this. Vanakkam, it is with a heavy heart that we as a Tamil Academy pay a tribute to one of our senior members, Uncle Rayven. Uncle Rayven was a member of the TTA since the conception of the TTA 7 years ago. He played a pivotal role in our academy as a lead singer. One of his favorite songs was Seva Om. The Tamil Academy participated in the Tamil Iceland and was placed first overall on numerous occasions, with Uncle Rayven taking first place in singing categories. As we gather here today to celebrate and remember the life of Uncle Rayven, a cherished friend, confidant, uncle, and a beacon of joy. Uncle Rayven was a person of immense kindness, unwavering loyalty, and infectious enthusiasm. His presence in our lives was a source of constant support. Although Uncle Rayven has left us, his spirit lives on in countless memories we share, and the lessons he taught us about friendship, resilience, music, and joy. His legacy of kindness, laughter, and love will continue to guide us. We will carry his memory in our hearts forever. We are grateful for the time we had with you and profound impact he made in our lives regarding Tamil culture. Rest easy, Uncle Rayven, free from pain and suffering, forever remembered and loved. Rayven and chairperson of the Tonga Child Academy. We have another message from the Tonga Child Welfare, and it reads, "The Pillay family condolences on the passing away of Mr. Rayven Pillay." A quote by Mr. Nelson R. Mandela, "What comes in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made in the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead." A fitting statement for an incredible human being. Mr. Rayven Pillay was a stalwart of the Tonga Child Welfare Society and a community campaigner of note. His involvement with child welfare spanned many years, where he volunteered at events, notably the charity fair, where he spent many long hours toiling in the restaurant, doing what he needed to be done. He was also an officiating priest for many years, performing the traditional haman prior to the commencement of the fair. A gentleman of note, he was a kind person with humble demeanor. His prowess, generosity, and astuteness always impressed us and others alike. On behalf of the Board of Management, patrons, staff, and volunteers of the Tonga Child Welfare Society, we extend our sincerest condolences to the Pillay family. Signed, Sean Silverlingham, President. I'd like to hand it over to the Tonga Tamil Academy, and we'll come back to read some more messages.
Amen.
please ask you to refrain from conversation while our service will be taking some budgets. We appreciate that. We understand that you haven't seen each other in a while, but let us have a little bit of respect for the family and for the service group. Thank you. Appreciate your cooperation. Thanks. I just want to go through a few more messages. The next one comes from a message from former employees of the erstwhile Tonga Town Board. Now, if you recall, Anna's first job was at the old Tonga Town Board. Prior to him getting a job at the old Tonga Town Board, he had applied for a job at then Barclays Bank. And he was very successful in getting the job at Barclays Bank, but the job was in Sydney Road in Durban. And Amma said, no, you have to take a train from Tonga to Durban. From Durban, you have to take a bus or another train to Sydney Road. And you don't even know how to get there. You can sit at home and have coffee, and I would come to you. And that was the son that he was, and he listened to his mother. And eventually, he got this job at the Tonga Town Board, and he stayed there for some 45 years, I think. And he progressed. He progressed to a very high level of head of IT at the Tonga Town Board, and then joined the North Local Council, and then that was followed by now particularly Metro. Let's not go there. And the message goes like this. As the former employees of the erstwhile Tonga Town Board, we bonded as a family. We saw our purpose not just as employees, but in service to our communities. We saw ourselves as servants of the people way before it became a cliche. Unfortunately, these values, which were hallmark of us as employees, is sadly absent in the current generation. Our brother, mentor, and elder to the younger generation, Rayven, exemplified this. He was the go-to person, who was a confidant and mentor. His compassion and care knew no bounds. I just want to stop here. You talking about him being a mentor. I received a call yesterday from a young gentleman by the name of Mr. Captain. I can't get his name now. He's a captain in the Metro Police. And he phoned me, he told me, I got a number to a friend, and we want to provide an escort for the funeral. And I said, but why? He said, no. He was my mentor. I started working at the Tonga Town Board when I was 18 years old. And he took me through the whole process. And he has left me where I am today. And I want to show my appreciation for the kind of human being that he is. I think his legacy is testament to the number of people that are here today. He was the go-to person. Rayven was our moral and spiritual compass. Our Tonga Town Board family has lost a giant. This boy cannot be fooled. We remember him for his sense of humor and his ability to recall funny stories that made us a Tonga Town Board family. His captivating and disarming smile will forever be etched in our memories. To the Pillay family, we thank you for sharing this wonderful human being with us. Eternally remembered and treasured. This message comes from Karanagaran Pillay on behalf of the previous employees. The assistant governor is a nephew of ours who is now based in New Zealand, and he is unfortunately couldn't make it. So he sent a message. In this moment of heartache and deep sorrow, as we try to come to terms and mourn the loss of our dear Anna, Dad, and Mama, I cannot find the right words to comfort you all as a family, but I want to take a moment to honor the love, wisdom, and the strength that we now have, or they should probably be that, brought into all our lives. His presence, his voice, his strength needed in one another in our shared memories, and in knowing that He is at peace, watching over us through this time. I'm going to read one more message and I'm going to get our speakers. This message is from the Farmer Residents Association, Mr. Taylor Government, and it reads, TRS sends our sincerest sympathies to the entire Pillay family, friends and colleagues of Escort. Rayven was definitely a formidable son of the soil. Integrity and honesty were non-negotiable. He moved about his duties in such a quiet disposition, inherent qualities, he so little. May his precious soul rest in the divine. To Lalita and the family, may God strengthen you in the days to come. Also, with sincere condolences to all who knew him and had the privilege of interacting with him. A soul worth emulating. Rest easily. I'd like to take the opportunity to call upon Mr. Jakes to pay tribute on behalf of the Great Village Army. Mr. Jakes and we commit today's proceedings in His service, His care, and His honor. It is with great sadness and sorrow that we record the passing away of Karanagaran Pillay, affectionately known to all of us as Rayven. He passed away after a short illness. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, our Chairperson, Mr. Justin Pillay, and the membership of the RI, I convey our deepest sympathies and condolences to the Pillay family, to his wife, Lalita, his children, Eulogy, and their spouses, and all the grandchildren, and sympathies also to the extended Pillay family. Rayven has been doing. He grew up not very far away from this venue, as Clyde has already mentioned, that we guys and from most of us, we have a history of coming from somewhere, and we grew up here at the Kansas Barracks. Rayven grew up in his formative years not far away, and lived here in his barracks, and this was our symbol of hope and temple. And we assembled here at this Kansas, what we used to then refer to it as the Sri Veerabhova Sindhya Karanagaran Pillay. In short, we used to call this the Mother Temple, and later on in history, the temple from the Paris, while we are Genesis and gave birth to SVET, Senior Chemical Technology. Rayven, he continued a very proud legacy of his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Karanagaran, of community service and service to humanity. His parents were always available to the community and especially those who needed assistance. This legacy is carried forward by the family to this very day. Rayven, he joined the Rayven some 50 years ago. 50 years of continued membership is a record in any language. He served in various capacities as a volunteer, as a committee member over the years. He played a very integral part in the prayer and festival subcommittee, always completing his tasks and responsibilities with much distinction and commitment. Rayven, he had a distinct advantage. We guys who grew up in the barracks, we were forced to attend chapel vernacular classes. And Rayven is one guy that kept the language alive. We always say that if you don't use it, you lose it. Not with Rayven. Rayven was able to speak fluently, read fluently, and write in Tamil. And was able to explain the meaning of our various hymns that we so often sing from the Karanagaran, the Tiruvasilam, and the Thirupal. This led Rayven to be a team leader at the Great Village Temple Service Group, together with his sister Rani and wife Maria. They enjoyed rendering service and also teaching fellow devotees how to sing our various hymns. Rayven was very particular with regard to pronunciation. He would always correct you if you pronounces any of his hymns incorrectly. They rendered service at various prayer functions and also at prayer events. After his retirement, Rayven started focusing on peace work, and he trained under our peace Guru Ravi and also learned how to interpret the Almanac. And having the knowledge of Tamil, he held in linguistic. He conducted various prayers and also available to conduct funerals and weddings. He was always available to the community. At our flagship events at the Alim, which is our annual Kali festival, Rayven always put his hands up to taking on the task and responsibilities and always carried himself out with much professionalism and distinction. A person who can be totally relied upon. He ensures that the prayer subcommittee was well organized and he was always very, very he was very, very saddened when he was forced not to attend the company in 2025 due to his ill health. In recent years, Rayven also announced his hobby of photography and became the official recorder of events at the temple through the hundreds of photos that he took and recorded. Rayven not only rendered his services at the Great Village Temple, but also all the temples that in and around Karanagaran, he volunteered his services within, and also in temples He stood firmly in the tradition of Sanatana Dharma, living by the timeless values of truth, compassion, and interconnectedness. Rayven didn't just preach these ideas, he lived them. Rayven believed in Vasudeva Kudumbaka, that we are one and that the whole world is one family. In conclusion, to Rayven's beloved family, our heartfelt sympathies and condolences go to all of you. May you find strength in the love that surrounds you and in the knowledge that His indomitable spirit lives in all of us. Rayven, the journey on this earth may be complete, but your light continues to shine in every heart you touch. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. We have a message from the Tonga Civic Association. It says, the Pillay family, condolences, the late Mr. Rayven Pillay. The Tonga Civic Association extends its heartfelt condolences on the passing away of our community, religious, sporting and cultural activities. Particularly football and cultural matters. He was a humble human being who was ever ready to assist. He did not allow his illness to deter him from his religious and community duties. The late Mr. Pillay's community activism was instilled by his parents, who were very involved in community affairs. This spirit of community activism continued with their children. The late Rayven Pillay would be remembered as that generation of municipal workers where service delivery was their central focus, which is sadly lacking in its present times. He was an ardent supporter of the Tonga Civic Association and other progressive movements that were involved in the apartheid struggle. He was a principled human being. We pray that his family be given the strength and fortitude to bear this loss. We join the community of Tonga in mourning the loss of this wonderful soul. A message that comes from Mr. Logi Naidu, former Deputy Mayor of the eThekwini Council. In expressing our sincere condolences and sympathies to Comrade Clyde and the entire Pillay family, we celebrate the life of a formidable soldier in our municipal services team. I interacted with late Rayven in the 70s and 80s during my tenure as a secretary of the Tonga Civic Association. From 1996, he was part of the North Local Council and the Metro Council machinery, delivering services to our people, which is so absent in these present times. A respected religious and cultural figure in Tonga, he served with absolute sincerity and dedication in all the organizations he served in. Rest in eternal peace. May the soul of Rayven attain moksha. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hand you over to the Medicine Street and Perumal Prayer Group, who will be rendering bhajans from now until 2:30 or to 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare
As I mentioned, we had a lot of messages that have come to us, and it will be improper for us to ignore these, but we're going to try and accommodate all of them. We have two more speakers. The speaker from Escort. Is the speaker from Escort here? Okay, the college is now. Great news. Okay, the Flamingo Heights Senior Citizens Club. And this was the club that was formed, and Rayven was one of the founding members of this club. And they've sent a message. It's a very long message, ladies and gentlemen. Please bear with us. And due respect to the Flamingo Heights Senior Citizens, we are short of time, so I'm just going to read excerpts from your message. Vanakkam, Namaste, Om Sai Ram, and a good day to all. It is with a heavy heart and immense sadness that we receive the news and of the demise of Mr. Karanagaran Pillay, fondly known to all of us as Rayven. We, the officials and members of the Flamingo Heights Senior Citizens Club, extend our heartfelt sympathies and condolences to the bereaved family. May God give you all the strength and courage to bear this great loss. Our late brother Rayven was one of the founding members of the Flamingo Senior Citizens Club, going back 33 years ago. He, together with a group of men and women, started the club in a garage in Flamingo Heights. Most of them are now long gone. They worked tirelessly to get the club running, as there was no funding at that time. He really had the Flamingo Senior Citizens Club near and dear to his heart. During his stay in hospital, we prayed for his recovery, but God knew what was best for him and took him home to rest. We pray that God takes him into his abode and grant him eternal peace. May God also give the Pillay family the strength and courage to continue with their lives. Our brother Rayven will be sorely missed by all. Rest in peace, dear brother, till we meet again. The Vice Chair, Sarala Devi. A message from the Sri Veeraboga Internal Temple. The trustees, HLDP's Management Committee and the Sri Veeraboga Internal Temple extend the deepest and most sincere condolences to the Pillay family. The Pillay family has its roots in the Maidstone barracks, and when residents from Maidstone moved to Gandhiesville, they were among the pioneers in this area. The parents of Rayven were integrally involved in the operation of the Sri Veeraboga Internal Temple from the 60s onwards, attending to all events in their family. The late Mr. R. Pillay, the patriarch, served as a priest at Sri Veeraboga for many years. The late Rayven Pillay faithfully attended all our prayers, and in later years became actively involved with the Breakthrough Alim. Rayven gave yeoman service there and followed in his father's footsteps by serving the community as a priest. As a humble servant of Lord Muruga, Rayven was always at the beck and call of people. On behalf of the SBET, we pray that Lord Muruga grants moksha to his soul and our dear Karanagaran Rayven Pillay. Go boldly with Muruga. We just want to thank the Maidstone Prayer Group for taking this opportunity to render bhajans dedicated to Lord Muruga. Our brother was a devotee, a great devotee of Lord Muruga. The Sandfields Temple, Siva Subramania Temple, heartfelt condolences on the passing of our beloved brother Rayven Pillay. On behalf of the officials, members and devotees of the Sandfields Subramania Temple, we extend our deepest and heartfelt condolences to you and the Pillay family for the loss of your beloved brother Rayven Pillay. As we reflect on his journey, we find comfort in our faith, knowing that the soul is eternal and that Rayven has returned to the divine source from which we all come. May his soul attain peace and eternal rest in the loving embrace of our Almighty. With deepest sympathy and blessings, Mr. Vijay Subramanian Sharma. I'm going to read the other message a little later. Can we call upon the representative from the Escort group to pay a tribute? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Indian friends. Today we are gathered here to celebrate and pay tribute to the memory of Rayven Pillay. It was with extreme sadness that we learned of the passing of our dear friend and colleague. We must remember him for his dedication to his family and friends, and to express our admiration and deepest respect for his courage and steadfastness to dedicate his life to the cause of righteousness, justice, and equality. His death will remind generations of his family and friends of a life of service and sacrifice. His wisdom and modesty, his unimpeachable integrity and single-minded devotion have set a standard for family and friends. He was a rare individual with precise clarity of vision and beliefs, and an outstanding leader as escort chairman and secretary. A towering figure in our society who would be remembered for his unshakable principles. We have lost a person of integrity, compassion, and dedication to the society at large. A deeply religious person, did good wherever he could, and accommodated without any bias all castes, religions, and races. I was fortunate to visit him at home recently and spend quality time discussing various subjects, and he told us he is improving and feels well, least expecting that would be my last conversation with him. In conclusion, I would like to end with a quote by Swami Vivekananda. We never go, nor come. It is the eternal and the interchangeable reality. May his soul rest in peace. Go well, my friend. May Lord give the family strength to bear this irreparable loss. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack, from Ascot. We'll hand you over to the Mason stage from our play group now.
Happy
Panikam again. We have a next speaker. He is also born and bred in the barracks, grew up with us. Mr. Karanagaran, who was part of the Maidstone family, the football club, and the prayer group. Would like to call upon Kala, please.
Thank you, Dr. Pillay. Namaste, Vanakkam, Sairam, members of the bereaved, dear brothers and sisters, the elders. It is indeed a sad day for the Maidstone family, and I'm sure the greater community of Toronto as well. The Pillay family belong to the Maidstone family. Now there are many barracks in terms of the history of this town, but the one barracks, and logically, I don't think it's a puzzle as to why we are so proud about this barracks. The family, as mentioned by previous speakers and messages, hail from the Maidstone barracks, and we grew up as one big family. And that family went steeped in community service, the Maidstone family. So I stand before you representing everything about Maidstone, not just the football club and just the prayer group, but about the barracks itself, the value system, and everything else that encompasses life in the barracks. As mentioned earlier, I last saw our brother when this temple hosted its Tirunal festival, the Chariot festival. And the Chariot, as usual, the first area it visits is the Bandora area. And we went past the home of our late brother. And himself, with his wife, was seated right in front, whilst Lord Narayana went past. And the temple did its rounds in Bandora. It came back down the same way, and Mr. and Mrs. Pillay were there once again, still waiting for the return of the chariot, pay the last respects to our Lord Narayana. That was the last day. I saw our brother who died here with Amy after the good day. He never missed the opportunity to pay his respects to the great Lord Narayana. Now, in terms of the Maidstone family, the value system of that barracks is very, very simple. And that was to serve. Serve the community, serve your Lord. And by serving your community, you serve the Lord. If you look at the life of our dear brother, he was definitely a sportsman through and through. And if you look at the various parts of sports that he served, he played football for Maidstone Football Club. He was official for Maidstone Football Club. And serving as an official, he got involved in the Football Association, where he became a referee. And he went on to get his Southern Natal colours, which was the official body of football in the province. And he officiated in professional matches as well. But he also played cricket for Maidstone football, at least for Maidstone. We had both football as well as the cricket club. And previous speakers spoke, James Lam spoke about his involvement in karate. And in 2010, when South Africa hosted the World Cup, Rayven could not stay away from the World Cup. He was one of the FIFA officials in 2010. I know, because we served together in the Durban grounds that we were responsible for during the time of the World Cup. So you could not keep Rayven out of sports. He was involved in all aspects of sports. And that is one of the important characteristics of all those that came from the barracks. And then you also heard tribute from Karanagaran senior citizens. He was a founding member, together with Mr. Rayven and Mrs. Naidu. Three of them were the founding members of the Karanagaran Senior Citizens Association. And he didn't stop there. When he left Karanagaran, he came into the Bangalore, he continued to be part of Ascot, and he continued to serve. And why does the family have the roots in the Yabramal temple here? And his father, we know, served this temple with distinction. But he, being a great devotee of Lord Muruga, he made sure that he gave his best at the Breakage Sri Subramanian Aliyam, and the Jakes referred to all the different activities that he performed at the Breakage temple. So in terms of his service, during his years, he has given of himself selflessly. And that also is one of the characteristics of the next barracks, citizens. To give of yourself and not to just, live a life just for yourself only, but to live for others. But Brother Jakes also referred to, they were together with the other siblings, being very staunch Tamil scholars, adherents of Sainism, and serving Sainism to the best of their ability. And Rayven, I remember attending Tamil school as an adult under the great Links Pillay, who was one of the greatest scholars of Tamil that this town has produced. On Monday evening at the Bottomsville Primary School, Rayven would attend classes. He was working, he was a family, he was a father, but he still saw the need to improve and continue learning the Tamil language. So if you look at the life of Rayven, he was a sportsman, involved in temple, involved in senior citizens, involved in civic affairs. And Brother Ganesh, sitting at the back, will tell you, whenever there were problems, even in the town hall, he was always one of those prepared to lead from the front and provide guidance. When there was an issue at one of the major temples in Chatsworth, he was there to provide guidance. Brother Ganesh is sitting at the back to ensure. In temples these days, it's much more difficult sometimes in temples than politics, unfortunately. Those are the times that we are living in. But it's people like Rayven, understanding, patient, mature, that are able to keep society functioning. And that is what he did, kept society functioning. So today it is unfortunate, but that is the reality that each and every one of us are going to undergo. I'm not sure how many of you seated out there, but I know in my family, he was the priest where he performed the last rites for my dear brother, for my dear sister. But today it is his turn, and it will be our turn. Only thing is, we don't know when. So, I am now going to quote from the great Manika Vasagar. As mentioned, if you look at the life of the Pillay family, they were very much involved in our culture, our religion, and the Tamil language. Manika Vasagar wrote a book known as the Thiru Vasagar, a very, very great book in terms of passion and devotion to the Lord, especially Lord Sivaperumal. And the philosophy of Sainism is very simple. It says, dear God, if you can't accept me as one of your devotees, but accept me as a devotee of your devotees. So even if I can't in your realm be there as a devotee, but accept me as a servant of your servants, of your devotees. And this is what the great Manika Vasagar says in the Thiru Vasagar. I quote, rid me of the cycle of births and deaths, and induct me into the fold of your devotees. O our primal Lord, whose being knows no end, and who dwells in the sacred golden hall of Pillay. The mistress dwells in midst of you, Mother. In the mistress-centered you dwell. If in the core of me, your servant, both of you indeed dwell, come forward and bestow on me, your servant, the gracious privilege of abiding amidst your servants, that my heart's purpose be fulfilled. Simply say, let me be one of your servants, who is part of your servants in this world. So today our prayer to the great Lord Sri Brahman and to the great Lord Muruga, and consolation to the family. I'm sure that is what Father wanted, to be regarded as a great servant of the Lord. On behalf of the Maidstone family, the Maidstone Football Club, the Maidstone Prayer Group, and the charitable rehabilitation of Rajasthan, we extend to the members of the family our heartfelt sympathies, and we pray for strength in the days to come, and we know that his soul will rest in peace. Thank you. Namaste. Bye.
Thank you, Governor. Coincidentally, this is a period of, for Muruga devotees, it's called the Kandasasti. And it is so appropriate that our brother passes away during the time of Kandasasti. Just a coincidence, I suppose. I have a message from the Ganizol Reunion Committee. It is a great sadness that we record the passing away of Mr. Rayven Pillay, a true icon of the community of Tongat. Rayven, as we all know him, was an extraordinary individual who touched many lives in Tongat and surrounding districts as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a long message. I think it's very appropriate that we acknowledge this message because we are running out of time, because we need to leave in a short while. The message comes from the chairperson, Mr. Alvin Pillay. Please accept our message, Alvin, for not being able to read out the entire message. The last message comes from the Department of Social Development to the family of the late Rayven Pillay. It is a deep sadness that we received the news of the passing away of Mr. Rayven Pillay. This untimely passing will most certainly leave a huge void in the Tonga community. Mr. Pillay will be remembered for his astute in management skills and strength in driving the objectives of the Furley Senior Citizens Center. It's from the management and staff of the Department of Social Development. We are coming to the end of our program, ladies and gentlemen, and we just need to wrap up. Before our priests come to do the concluding prayer, I would just like to mention a few things. As you all know, Rayven for the last 4 weeks was very unwell, and he was on the ventilator for 3 weeks. On the second week, we asked our priest, Guru Anand, the family did, to call him to hospital to pray for him. And Guru Anand did. And one of our friends suggested that we have a chain prayer. A prayer at a specific time where you ask everyone to pray at the same time. And the amazing thing is, the message that was sent out to people on the power of social media was unbelievable. And there were hundreds of people that prayed for him at 2 p.m. on that day. You know, I believe in miracles, and a miracle happened. On that Monday morning, Rayven was taken off the ventilator. I was on my way to the hospital to see him, and I got a call from Viroshni, who's based at the hospital. And for the first time, I would get a call from Virosh because she's always giving us news that is not pleasant. But this time, I saw a laughing Viroshni, and she says, "Look at your phone, look at your phone." And I looked at my phone and I see a smiling brother of mine. You know, that was just blew us away. It was a complete miracle and a U-turn, you know. And he was so confident that he was better, that he's coming home. And they were singing the song. I want to go home. I want to go home. Every time we visit him, he said, I want to go home. To such an extent that when I went there one afternoon, he called me close to him and said, show me the exit. That's how desperate he was to go home. And the nurse that was attending to him overheard that. And she said, Papa, you can't go home yet. We all wanted to bring him home, but never in our wildest dreams did we imagine that we will bring him in a box. Never. We prayed, but God knows best. God has a plan for everyone, and that was his plan for our brother. I want to thank you all for your support in sharing our grief. It makes a big difference to the grieving family. But the thing above all this, we want to place on record our thanks and appreciation to our sister Lali. They were married for 43 years, or 44 years, I think. And she had taken such good care of our brother. And we can bear testament to that. She was at his beck and call. She was what we would call a doting wife. The boys, the Larson and the Charlotte, you've gone to such an extra mile to make sure Daddy was comfortable. And thank you. But I think Viroshni, dear Viroshni, you've done so much for your father. I don't think any daughter would do so much for their father, being raised at the hospital. Viroshni would leave her job to be at her father's side. And thank you, Virosh. We also want to say thank you to the nursing staff of the ICU at Mediclinic Victoria. You know, people always complain about nursing care, but I can bear testament, and our family can bear testament to the wonderful care that our brother received at Victoria Hospital. And we want to say thank you to all of you that took care of him. We have one announcement, two announcements. The ceremony will take place at this venue on the 13th of July. The service will be rendered from 4 to 5 and supper thereafter. Meals are being prepared at home, so please proceed to the house, which is just around the corner, to have a meal before you leave. We have one very special request that came in. One of our cousins from Johannesburg, Mr. Edward Reddy, is unfortunately unable to attend due to him being very ill. He asked if we could play a song for our brother, dedicated to him. gentlemen, we are running out of time. And thank you, Edward Reddy, for his beautiful rendition of the song to Hosanna. I'll hand you over to the Mason Prayer Group, and we're just awaiting the priest to conclude the final rites. Thank you.
Thank you.
Venerable respected elders, dear brothers and sisters, we reach the culmination of this afternoon's funeral service. We'd like to call for the immediate family members to the final view as we have the last Karanagaran. Thereafter we conclude the art making our way to the very crematorium. Immediate family members, we allow them to for your final viewing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Please rise to continue prayer.
Shivaya, Shivaya Namo, Shivaya Namo, Shivaya Namo, Namah 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 Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya.